Welcome to this deep dive, The Learner. Today, we're strapping in for a really interesting look at the Maschine mk3.
Yeah, we're digging into some of its more, let's say, expressive features.
Exactly. Perform FX, parameter locks, automation, stuff you pointed out from that sound test room tutorial.
That's the one. Really good breakdown.
Our mission then is to unpack how these tools let you manipulate sound in cool ways, add dynamics, twists.
Without getting totally bogged down, making it musical, not just technical.
Right. Whether that's live on the fly or when you're producing.
Precisely. Making those sounds really move it.
Okay, so let's dive straight into Perform FX. What's the deal with these? They're not just regular effects, are they?
No, not exactly. Think of them more like group effects. Master effects for a whole set of sounds at once.
Ah, so applied to a whole group, not just one pad.
Exactly. So you can sweep a filter across your entire drum kit or stutter everything together. Very immediate.
Okay, that makes sense. And how do you actually get to them on the mk3?
The tutorial showed it clearly. Hold down Shift, then hit the Perform button.
Shift and Perform. Got it. And that turns them on.
Turns them on and shows you the selection on the screen. Super quick access.
And the first one that pops up is usually a filter, right?
Yeah, the default's a filter. Classic, easy place to start.
But there's a whole list they went through. Quite a few DJ-style effects, it sounded like.
Oh yeah, good selection. Filter, flanger, beat stretch, which sounds wild.
Stretch.
Echo, Reso Echo. They seem to really like that one.
I noticed that. Reso Echo.
Then you've got ring modulator, stutter, gating, tremolo, even a scratcher.
Wow, okay. That's a proper toolkit for performance. Sounds like fun.
Definitely. And the key thing is how you control them.
Right, the touch strip.
Primarily, yeah. The tutorial really focused on using the touch strip for real-time manipulation. Much more hands-on than a mouse.
They showed that Reso Echo example, didn't they? Sliding the finger for frequency.
Yeah, controlled the frequency sweep on the strip. And I think they were tweaking feedback too.
It looked really fluid, like you could really play the effect.
That's the beauty of it. That physical connection makes it feel more like an instrument, less like programming. You get those happy accidents.
Okay, so that covers doing it live. But what about programming those changes? Automation?
Yeah, standard automation is there. Hold the auto button, tweak any knob or parameter.
And it records it.
And it records those movements right into your pattern. Straightforward.
But for the Perform FX specifically, they mentioned a kind of shortcut, something with the lock button.
Ah, right, yeah. They suggested holding Shift and Lock, then hitting Auto.
Okay, Shift, Lock, then Auto. Why? What's the benefit?
The idea is it might help focus the automation just on the Perform FX while you're playing, stop you accidentally automating something else maybe.
Ah, okay. Like isolating it.
Sort of, but, and this is a big but, they warned you have to remember to turn that lock off again afterwards.
Why is that so crucial? What happens if you forget?
Well, if you leave it locked like that, you might start tweaking, say, a synth parameter later. And because that lock is still active with auto, you'd accidentally record automation for that parameter too.
Ooh, okay. That could get messy fast. Unintended consequences.
Exactly. So, useful trick, maybe, but use with care. Turn it off when you're done automating the Perform FX.
Good tip. They also showed a sequence that already had Perform FX automation baked in, right?
Just to demonstrate how you can create those evolving textures over time without needing constant hands-on control.
Yeah.
Adds real depth.
Yeah, you could hear it building and changing, much more dynamic than just a static effect.
Totally. It lets you craft these intricate effect movements.
All right, Perform FX for the big gestures, automation for the program stuff. Now, parameter locking. This sounded really powerful. They compared it to Electron gear.
Yeah, that comparison definitely pricked up my ears too. It's a similar concept. Basically, parameter locking lets you save a complete snapshot of your entire machine's setup.
A snapshot, like everything.
Pretty much everything, yeah. All your sound settings, effect parameters, levels, panning, even mutes and solos. Freeze frame.
Okay, how do you take this sonic picture?
Simple. Just hold down the lock button, sometimes labeled parameter lock.
Just hold it down while it's playing or stopped.
Either way works. Hold lock, and boom, current state saved.
And the tutorial said you could then, like, completely destroy the sound.
Yeah, go wild, tweak everything.
And then just hit lock again or something to snap back.
Exactly. Tap lock, and you revert instantly to that saved state. It's like super-powered undo, but way more flexible. Great for experimenting without fear.
That electron comparison makes sense now, that freedom to explore.
It really encourages you to push things, knowing you can always get back.
But it wasn't just one snapshot, was it? They talked about creating multiple lock states, like different scenes.
Precisely. You can save several different configurations. The process was hold, shift, and unlock first.
Shift and unlock.
Yeah, that sort of prepares it. Then your current state becomes lock 1. Then you make your changes. They tweaked that metabear sound.
Metabear. Intriguing.
Right, so you tweak things, maybe record some different notes, then save that as lock 2, and so on.
And you can jump between these locks instantly.
Instantly. They showed switching between them, and the whole sound just flips to the save state. Different synth settings, different effects.
And you mentioned mutes and solos are saved too.
Yeah, that's key. So lock 1 might have the drums fully playing. Lock 2 might have the kick and snare muted. You can build arrangement variations just using locks.
Okay, that's cool. But then it got even crazier. Linking locks to patterns. Pattern locking within parameter locking.
This is where it gets really interesting. You can associate a specific parameter lock state with a specific musical pattern you have loaded.
Hang on. So, triggering a lock
Can not only change all the sound parameters, but also switch Maschine to playing a completely different pattern.
Whoa, okay, that's a game changer. That's instant arrangement switching.
Right. Huge potential for live sets or just building complex song structures quickly. One button press triggers a whole sonic and structural shift.
Mind blown. But wait, there was more. Morphing. Instead of just switching.
Yes. Instead of an abrupt cut between lock states, you can have them smoothly transition.
How does that work? Something about picture on.
Yeah, there's a setting, likely called picture, with options like off, on, travel, target. The presenter preferred travel.
Right.
Turning this on enables the morphing.
And you set a time for the morph.
Exactly. There's a morph time parameter. You can set it from like half a bar up to 16 bars.
16 bars, wow.
Yeah. So you choose how long it takes for Maschine to gradually shift from all the settings in the first lock state to all the settings in the second lock state.
Including the pattern change.
And the mutes.
Everything. Mutes will fade out, effects will smoothly change, synth parameters will glide, patterns might crossfade. It's a full interpolation.
The demo sounded amazing, like this slow evolution from one vibe to another, really organic.
It creates these really nice fluid transitions, much smoother than just hard cuts, makes the whole thing feel more alive. Okay, deep stuff. Let's circle back quickly to the effects Perform FX specifically. The routing. Wet Dray is standard, but they highlighted something else.
Right. The standard wet dry mix is there, lets you blend the effect in. But the key routing option they focus on was changing the output from mix to wet only.
Wet only. But what's the creative use case for that?
Think DJ style effects.
Yeah.
You momentarily switch to wet only to hear just a heavily processed signal like a big echo wash or a stutter, and then drop back to the normal mix.
For those dramatic effect throws, like a big reverb splash just before the beat drops back in.
Precisely that. Creates impact, contrast, lets you really feature the effect sound itself for a moment. Very useful performance technique.
So pulling all this together, the tutorial's main point seemed to be about the workflow, right? How you can use these together.
Yeah, they really emphasize that even with just one group and one pattern, combining Perform FX, automation, and parameter locks gives you a massive amount of creative mileage.
Especially for live playing.
Especially live. You can make a simple loop evolve and change dramatically just using these tools.
And they showed that technique of duplicating a pattern, then adding maybe some subtle individual effects like reverb or delay on certain sounds in the duplicate.
A good workflow idea. Use Perform FX for the big group changes. Use individual insert effects for finer details on specific sounds, and use locks to save and switch between these different states and patterns. Layers of control.
It builds complexity efficiently.
Exactly. And they made that point too, that unless you have Maschine Plus, the standalone one, the hardware is mostly a controller.
Right, controlling the software.
But its strength is in how well it controls it, the workflow. These features, Perform FX, locks, the touch strips, they're all about the hands-on creative workflow.
It's designed to be played, not just programmed.
That sums it up perfectly. It becomes an instrument in its own right because of how you interact with it.
So, the learner, you can really hear how the mk3 offers this very physical way to sculpt sound. Perform FX for big sweeps, parameter locks for precise states, or even pattern changes, automation for programmed moves.
And that morphing capability.
Yeah. Wow.
That ability to smoothly transition between complex states just opens up so many doors creatively.
Definitely. Think about using that wet-only routing for big impacts, or how you could build evolving textures within one pattern using those parameter locks and morphing.
It really does encourage experimentation.
Absolutely. We've, just scratched the surface here based on that tutorial, but hopefully it's given you some ideas, sparks for how you might use these techniques.
Whether you're jamming live or deep in a studio session.
So the question back to you is, what kind of sonic journeys, what transformations are you imagining now with these tools? That's your cue to dive in and really explore.